Welcome back to Hannity. Four Minnesota residents from a local Somalian community outside Minneapolis will be on trial next month for conspiring with ISIS, plotting to carry out possible attacks here in the U.S. According to federal prosecutors, one of those accused terrorists, Khalid Ali Omar, even conceived a plan to route foreign fighters across the U.S.-Mexican border. All this comes as FBI Director James Comey warned of a possible Brussels-style attack in America within the next 2 years. Watch this.
We stare at what happened in Brussels and imagine it as our future that we have to work against. That it could be that the threat they're facing on the continent, and increasingly here in the UK, is the threat that we could face 2 years from now. And we talk a lot and plan a lot and work a lot against that possibility.
It's an ominous warning, and joining us now with his reaction is Fox News strategic analyst, Lieutenant Colonel Ralph Peters. Colonel, great to see you tonight.
Hey, Tucker.
Minneapolis, yet again, the site of an FBI investigation into terrorism. Something has changed about Minneapolis. Whatever happened to Minneapolis nice or Minnesota nice? It didn't used to be the locus of terror plots. Why is it now?
Well, among other things, our immigration policy is so utterly screwed up. We not only brought in Somalis in very large numbers, we ghettoized them. We allowed them to congregate in one area where they don't have to learn English, they don't have to learn American values. They're subject to hate preachers, the most radical forms of Islam, and it's a little Somalia within the United States.
Yeah, but hold on, Colonel. But for years we brought Scandinavians into Minneapolis, and they congregated together and lived in their own neighborhoods and spoke Swedish and Danish, and they didn't plot any terror attacks. What's the difference?
Well, they did clog our arteries with a lot of cheese, but very seriously, it really comes down to culture. The Scandinavians that came over were from European culture. Traditionally, European culture has been our culture. It's American derivative. And to be fair, most Muslims, have done a fair job of integrating. Some of Iranian Americans have done a great job. But the Somalis were undereducated or uneducated, practiced a very, I'd say, primitive form of Islam. And again, they didn't get dispersed. They didn't have to integrate. And that's a fundamental problem. But, Tucker, back to the basic thrust of this story, that terrorists are going to be coming across the Mexican border. Well, they're certainly going to try, and they're going to keep trying to come through airports. They'll keep trying to come across the Canadian border because the terrorists desperately want to hit us. I like to say that in the terrorist Olympics, you create a bloodbath in Israel, you get a bronze. Bloodbath in Europe, you get the silver. But if you want to win the terrorist Olympic gold, you've got to kill Americans on American soil, and they will not stop until they do it.
Well, that's clearly the case, though I wonder about the threat posed by backdoor immigration when so many of the people who appear to pose threats to the United States came in right through the front door as refugees or on visas or as legal immigrants.
Yeah, or as jailbird converts. Actually, you know, most American Muslims want to be good Americans, or at least just get on with their lives. But we bear culpability in hindering their efforts to do so because we allow the Saudis and Gulf Arabs to fund radical mosques and hate mosques to terrorize our Muslim communities with the Wahhabi cult of Islam. So it's not a block thing that, you know, somehow all Muslims are bad or all Muslim immigrants are bad, but we make it harder for them with the Somalis by letting them all congregate. But above all, the biggest problem we have, to me, with Muslim immigration, apart from a screwed up immigration system, is that we allow the Saudis and others to fund the worst kind of proselytizing, the Wahhabi cult within Islam.
But we have no counter-proselytizing. I mean, wouldn't it make sense, and by the way, there are a lot of great Muslims in this country, and I'm glad they're here, but if people come over and bring with them values that are antithetical to Western values, people don't allow their women out of doors to drive cars, perform horrifying and unnecessary surgeries on them for cultural reasons, nobody says anything. Whereas the Saudis have a really clear idea of what they want to inculcate in people. They have a vision of their culture, and they want to pass it on. We don't. Why is that?
Well, it's because we've lived high off the hog for so long. We live in such safety, despite the threat of terrorism. We live in such wealth, despite whining about poverty, that we don't appreciate how hard a place the world is. And so political correctness, we can afford political correctness. That's why political correctness works, or fails to work. And so in the name of religious tolerance, an utterly perverse version of religious tolerance, we allow the Saudis to proselytize here, but there's no reciprocity.
No.
We can't fund mosques or synagogues in Saudi Arabia because there aren't any, and there aren't going to be any. And the fact that our Congress will not stop foreign individuals who do not reciprocate, who do not practice tolerance at home, allow those foreign individuals and states to fund the most hateful versions of any religion here, is beyond my ken.
I'm laughing at the thought of trying to build a Presbyterian church in Riyadh. What would happen? Colonel, that was a really insightful couple of minutes. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Tucker.